This is DeFi Alpha. I'm co-lead at Umami Finance. I'm here with our treasury manager, Carnation, as well as Halko and Mario from Dopex, and really excited. This is the fourth episode of Arbitrum Insider. We, love bringing on some of the coolest, most exciting projects from Arbitrum and giving, our community and just sort of the broader CT community a chance to learn more about. In this case, Dopex. Dopex is, I think, as most people know, I think if there's any name, Dopex and GMX, I'd say if there are any names people associate with Arbitrum, it would be those two. And, I think that there's a lot of really exciting stuff to dig into. So maybe just to get started, Halko and Mario, do you guys just want to introduce yourselves, what you do at Dopex, and just kind of give a, quick TLDR on what Dopex is all about for people?
Yeah, sure. So let's start then. So we are Mario and Halko. So Mario is our a veteran crypto degen and our boss of communications. And in general, Mario is the man who is one of the pillars who has managed to build our whole Dopex community and the Dopex ecosystem. Which means if you have joined the Dopex Discord last year. I think it was spring last year, April, May, in very, very early stage when Mario was basically the bouncer. So he was building the whole community from scratch. And I think that this wave of degens and the wave of all those people liking the blue coin with bull and then kind of being here on Arbitrum altogether, that's what Mario is responsible for.
You were one of the first members, by the way, remember?
Yeah. And Mario is most likely one of the largest backholders of the NeonCon, if you remember Neon from the first days of Arbitrum.
Don't do this, please.
So Mario is the Neon whale. And what else can we say? Yeah, so Mario is our boss, and I kind of joined the team later on. So I was initially a community member, and then I joined in late November. Was it November? No, in late October.
Late October, early November,
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and so I'm helping Mario. I do a little bit of BD, some research, ideas, explanations. You know how it is. You start the day, and definitely there is something to do, and for sure, team is doing something. So that's the story basically. So we've been on Arbitrum since day one, and we have been enjoying this ever since because it's pretty cool, It kind of feels like a neighborhood, which means everyone, I think, knows each other, and it's pretty cool because since each of the projects have just started, we are, kind of lucky to get in touch already with the Arbis, with Umami, with GMX, and all other neighbors. So far, it still feels, like a kind of neighborhood, crypto community, crypto neighborhood, stuff like this. It's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, no, that's been our experience as well. Just going into
No, I mean, he did a great intro for both of us, so I don't know if I can add anything to that. So maybe Halko, maybe you can also kind of jump quick on what Dopex is. I think that was also one of the questions. You probably have something up your sleeve already.
Yeah, I can say something. Yeah. So in general, what Dopex is, it's in general is a platform. This is the on-chain platform for options, and that's the idea number one. And it is also the whole ecosystem about options and risk and transferring risk and being region. So in general, our idea is to build and deliver an options protocol that is made by DeFi users and for DeFi users, which means if you are interacting with various DeFi products every day, then you have this very stark compulsion saying, well, what do you see in DeFi? You may not see in traditional finance for various reasons. Mostly it's blockchain, mostly architecture, other things. So for this reason, our kind of idea, way of thinking is that for this reason we should be copying the ideas options from the traditional finance, but more like exploring, thinking, well, there are instruments called options. Options allow you to trade, offset a risk, different portion also of your risk. And how can we do this so that this is accessible to DeFi users? How can we do this that it is composable so that other protocols also can have quite simple access to options? How can we kind of allow for DeFi users to have some more control over their risk management? And I think that's what we are trying to solve, what we are trying to build, and at the same time we're also trying to onboard people that are new to derivatives, that are new to the options, and kind of make sure that they are not lost, they are not overwhelmed, and also that they have this good understanding what the product does, what are the risks, what they are doing, where the yield, profits, and losses come from. So in general, we really want to make sure that we have a long-term educated community and pretty much the users that stay with us for a long term. But our kind of baseline is options.
Great. That's a really helpful overview, Halko. And I think you raised some interesting points. I definitely love that your goal is to onboard new users, not just to sort of Arbitrum, but also just to the entire concept of using options as a hedging and risk management instrument in DeFi. And Umami definitely that's a mission that's close to our heart, because we definitely want to also help invite more people to Arbitrum and to DeFi broadly, and sort of help teach them about ways that they can manage risk and still really take advantage of all the opportunities here. I would be really curious just to hear from you. I think that there's I've always had the sense, at least, that there's a common perception that while certain DeFi strats like yield farming, single-sided staking seem to be very accessible to maybe newer non-crypto native investors without, or users without a financial background, I feel like options, for many people, they put them in the category of sort of complex financial derivatives, maybe for more sophisticated investors. And in my view, that's a shame if people think that way, because they are so important as hedging instruments, even for someone who just wants very safe long-term exposure to for example, many of the different assets that you guys provide options for. But I'd be curious just to sort of hear from you. If you were talking to sort of a new investor interested in getting involved in DeFi and in Arbitrum, what are some basic option strategies that you would recommend that they start with? And just from your efforts educating investors, as you've been doing, people entering into DeFi, what are some of the big key things that you feel like people definitely need to learn, and that once they do, they are able to at least take advantage of certain simple option strategies for hedging? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that for both of you guys.
Yeah, I think that the best answer would be that with options there is definitely no silver bullet, right? So there is no one size fits all. And I think maybe we can just give a super quick overview what the options are for people who have heard this term for a very first time. So if you are DeFi native, then most likely you are familiar with many concepts. So let's say you have been exactly LPing or single staking or farming, or maybe you are just a degen and you really like to be leveraged, trade perps, or have leveraged positions. And in general, right, in many of those strategies, many things, for example, if you're leveraged, are kind of linear, right? So if price goes up, your P&L goes up by the same ratio. If price goes down, your P&L moves by the same ratio. And there is a lot of this linearity. With options, it is quite interesting because in general, options have two participants. They have a side, one side that is buying an option, and the other that is selling the option. And options are called options because they are literally options. So if you buy the option, you are buying a right to enter into a financial transaction in the future. What does it mean? We'll just give example in a moment. And if you are selling options, you are selling the right, you are selling the flexibility, and you have the obligation to fulfill this right. So maybe let's give an example. For example, from very, very real life, I think. We have told this story once, but I think it's a cool story. So long time ago, apparently the first documented the usage of options was in ancient Greece. One of the Greek philosophers, maybe it was Pythagoras, I'm not sure right now, but one of the Greek philosophers was once thinking and pondering and observing the sky, and he came up to the conclusion that the olive harvests this year are going to be huge, like the record high. So what did he do? He took all his savings he got from educated students, and he went to the olive oil presses, and he told to the olive oil pressers, look, I will pay you this and this money now, and then I will have the exclusive right to use your presses in the autumn during the harvests. And they're like, yeah, of course, we love money up front. Of course, give us the money, and then when there is a harvest season, our presses are all yours. Because they thought it would be a normal season. But yep, the philosopher was right. The harvest was abundant, and the whole Greece was full of olives. And there were huge queues to get to the presses before the olives spoil. So obviously, then the philosopher was able to tell, well, look, I have the sole right to use the olive oil presses. I'm very happy to sell it to you so that you can press your olive oils, but you will have to pay me extra. So this way, he was basically able to buy the right to do something in the future. Right? So if you have options, if you use options, you are using exactly the same logic, which means you are buying a right to enter into a transaction where you buy or sell some instrument on a predetermined price and on the predetermined day. And given, of course, you are buying the option, you are having some flexibility. The other side is selling this, so they are foregoing this flexibility. So in order for both sides to be kind of made whole, right, so that one side is not losing at the cost of another, the buyer of the option has to pay the premium, which means if you want to enter into a transaction in the future and have a right to do this, so if it suits you, you do this. If it doesn't suit you, you do not. You still pay the premium for this right. And if you are a reseller, you earn money. You are selling your rights. You are selling kind of your freedom to transact. You have the obligation to transact. You are earning money instead, and you are hoping that the guys to whom you have sold the right would never knock your doors. So in general, I think that that's kind of the basic thing, which means there are people buying options, there are people selling options, and now maybe to give kind of a example with tokens, I think what people love doing, they love speculating, they love being vision. So what people could do, they could, for example, think, okay, I really, really feel that around the merge, ETH is going to be $10,000, because why not, right? People love to give these outlandish numbers. Whether they are good or not, I don't know. I guess we will see. And they think, well, ETH today is $3,000. So maybe I can buy the option to buy ETH at $5,000 in a month from now. And if, for example, in a month from now we have a merge and ETH goes up to $10,000, then I have the option, and if I use this option, then I can buy the option for $5,000, I can instantly sell it for $10,000, and I can lock in the profit, right? And for example, this option only would cost me $100. So this way, if something very unexpected happens, your profit is very, very large. On the other hand, if nothing happens, right, we grab, I don't know, maybe there is a tax season, people sell their ETH, then the speculator has just paid a premium, the option has expired worthless, and the person that sold the option is quite happy. And I think it's what we can basically see right now in DeFi, that there is this popularity of people selling options through various roles, because they are hoping like, okay, I will sell my options because I do not think that given token will reach this or that price, right? I hope it will not happen. And they do this, and they pocket premiums. Some people say it's a legit strategy. Some people would say, well, that's actually a risky strategy. And on the other hand, we have people buying the options to get certain exposure. But I think when it comes to the question, what is the best strategy, I think I'm going to quote the classic. So if you have a chance, I think I can read one of the book by Taleb, because he favors, philosophers as mathematicians. So Nassim Nicholas Taleb is kind of like one of the modern godfathers of risk and options, and he would always say that the best options are the ones that you get for free. So, whenever you have some optionality, you have some rights, you have some right to choose, and someone gives it to you for free, then go for it. And I think that's the best option strategy you can have in life. But that's broadly in life. In DeFi, people love numbers. People are pretty good with numbers. So I think you will not find anyone like giving you straight away free options. But who knows? And then the other thing is, we have mentioned people using options to speculate, and that's like one group of people. But there are also people that hedge. And what does it mean to hedge? If you are like native English speaker, then when you hear hedge, you may think, well, hedge is like this green shrub that British people plant instead of fences, or there is a hedgehog that lives in hedges. But people in finance kind of took over this term, and they turned it into a definition. So to hedge basically means to have insurance to kind of cover your risk. So you can use options to hedge, which means you don't want, for example, you can use options as insurance, right? You for example, could be farming, could be being leveraged. Maybe you just want to insure your portfolio because you are kind of afraid of uncertainty, and you don't know what happens, right? And so you can exit the market now, but if you exit the market now, you will probably FOMO back in 2 days after reading Twitter. So instead you can use options to buy the options, to buy some certain form of insurance, right? So this way you are kind of chipping off from your profits, right? Because you have to pay some money to buy the options, but you can use them as insurance. And this way, if things do not go your way, you think like, oh, well, that's fine. I'm hedged. I bought options. They work for me. I sleep well. And if this event doesn't happen, you still think, well, this event didn't happen, but I was sleeping well because I was hedged. And also there is a pretty cool poster on Twitter called Small Nassim, whom I recommend following because he is posting a lot of funny posts about this. So check him out. I think that's like optional interview.
Thanks, Halko. That was a really helpful interview, and a really helpful overview, and I really appreciate you kind of breaking it down for listeners that way. Carnation, I saw that you had a question you wanted to ask Halko and Mario. So by all means, curious to hear what you have to say. Carney, are you able to speak?
maybe while we wait, maybe I can
Yeah.
just add real quick one thing to what Halko already said. I mean, he it's kind of hard to add anything to what he said because it was already very complex and very detailed. But a good, starting point to kind of just get a feel for possible strategies is also, for example, the recently released analyst series from our community, where we have different community members kind of highlight certain tokens and possible strategies that they use themselves on how to play with these tokens. And if you're left curve as I am, the easiest solution is definitely using something like Dow Jones options or Pluto's Dow once they launch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I actually did want to ask you guys about that. I mean, one of the most exciting things about Dopex, among many others, is that you guys have already, started to create your own ecosystem effect within Arbitrum, which I think, is something we're probably going to see more and more of on the Arbitrum network as the DeFi ecosystem here continues to grow. But you guys have definitely been sort of first movers in building this platform that then other projects have built on top of. And so you just mentioned Jones DAO, and curious for those who are not maybe familiar with them, or with other projects that are sort of affiliated with you. Mythical is another one that I know is connected in certain ways to Dopex. Do you guys, either Mario or Halko, would love to hear from both of you guys? Kind of wanted to share with listeners sort of what these other projects are about and how they connect to Dopex.
Yeah, I mean, I can maybe just give like a broad overview, and Halko can maybe talk a little bit about Dow Jones and the others. So, I mean, the ecosystem itself kind of sprung. I mean, we didn't really plan on having an ecosystem. It just kind of happened and just kind of sprung out of this community that we built. And, people just saw that our product is great and you can build good things on it, and they're just starting building them, right? And, so everybody was excited about that, definitely. So that's great. You mentioned Mythical, which is one of the projects that, kind of came out of the core team of Dopex. One of our members started it or is part of it. And he kind of left to kind of manage that as well. So, yeah, it's, I would say a family project, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they kind of used us or the way that we kind of worked with them was with the mint was done through locking up your LP tokens for RDPX WEF, right? So people kind of forfeited their 2 weekly yield on their LP tokens, and with that yield they received, or for that yield they received the mint, the NFTs. So that was pretty cool, and I think pretty novel way of doing an NFT mint. And yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, there's Dow Jones, there's something new called Plutus, which is, I mean, they haven't released a lot yet, so we personally don't really know a lot about it yet ourselves, so very excited to hear more from them there. And yeah, Halko, maybe you can elaborate a little bit about Jones DAO, because I know you kind of been involved with them as well, a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think like very super quick pitch about Jones DAO would be very simple, which means, how to say this? With Dopex, we went to kind of simplify the UX for the users so that they do not feel overwhelmed. But at the same time, we still want to make sure that they can make their decisions when it comes to what they want to do with options, how they want to use them, etc., etc. So on one hand, we have simplified, for example, the amount of like strikes terms available, because we noted that, well, to say this, if you show a user an ETH option with 2500 and 2600 strike, then it kind of puts users in this paralysis, right, where they are not sure which one is different, and they kind of fall into these pitfalls. If you instead show the users one option that is close to today's price, the other is far away, and the other is further away, then it is already easier for users to understand, okay, this is here is my risk here, my risk is here, and my risk is here. But still, there was a group of users that were happy to take some risk, but were like happy to go speculate a little bit, but they still thought that they actually do not really feel like pulling the trigger. And the people behind the John's team, they kind of came up with this idea that, well, we are very happy to pull the trigger for you. So John's team has a team of quants, and I see that the guys are also here on the stage. So shoutouts. And the thing is that they are thinking like how the market looks like, what is the strategy we can take, what is our risk, and what can we do with the user funds so that the risk reward would work for them, and in the long term, the team would be looking to generate alpha. And it is quite interesting. Maybe like the broad kind of the concept is that when we go back to like 2020, maybe last year, in general, the yield farming was from tokens, right? A lot of yield farming was just a token subsidy, which means you were able to get a token and most likely maybe keep it, maybe sell it, maybe dump it, right? But many of the yield farming strategies were, basically speaking, claiming the token, selling the token, and this is a kind of two ways of earning the actual return. Was one, LPing, because you would collect trading fees from the users, which was very, very cool, or going to the lending / borrowing platforms, where you would pretty much earn interest rates because you would be lending out your assets. And these were like basically very, very interesting yield ways to actually generate returns on your assets that were not subsidized. And it is quite interesting because with options as well, a lot of the process, a lot of this kind of yield return that different strategies generate basically comes from exchanging risk, right? So there is no subsidy behind it. There's like no farm and dump. These are basically people exchanging their risk. So, for example, taking more uncertainty in exchange of no, or maybe going the other way. But this way, this kind of level of return, this kind of level of yield is sustainable because these are users swapping risk. So we can basically put this category of yield in the same kind of bucket as return on LPing, or return on lending out your assets, or return on like providing your assets to per platforms, etc., etc. So yeah, so in general, the guys are just looking to pull the trigger for you on different assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I always loved, from my understanding of the Jones folks, is that some of them were not necessarily TradFi people who had been trading options their whole lives. Some of them actually learned to become really excellent options traders on the Dopex platform, and now of course they've built a new project on top of it, which I think is just very cool. And I think just sort of to flag this ecosystem effect, because I think that's something that all of us get really excited about. Now that there's this fantastic Dopex platform in place, and additional projects with relationships with them, that just continues to kind of add to what's available for people on Arbitrum. Umami works with not only do we deploy capital through Dopex, but also we work with the folks at Jones. We've talked with them about building some auto compounders to help provide additional liquidity to some of their farms, which of course, it all circles around, because that should eventually add, more liquidity on, both sides of options trades on Dopex. And, we work with the Mythical folks as well. We're talking about a pretty exciting plan for, using their model, that you guys described very well to mint some NFTs of our own and raise some capital for the project. So, I just really love seeing that sort of, synergy and, growth supporting additional growth on the network. And, in fact, I'll give a shout out. As you mentioned, we have some folks from Jones and some folks from Mythical, right here on this call. So big shout out. Would love to hear from you guys later if you're still on. And yeah, I think, maybe the last thing to flag on my end, and then we can, then I do want to see if Carney wanted to add anything as well, and we can open it up to broader questions. But, along with, the options strategy on Dopex, which you guys have explained very well, I can speak, from my own experience at Umami. We also make use of your SSOV vaults, right, which we think are, a really great option for single-sided staking. I think a lot of people associate single-sided staking, particularly for really blue chip tokens like ETH, for example, as being, a relatively low yielding strategy, but also, fairly low risk. But I think what the vault strategy for Dopex offers, and, there still is some discretion involved in, sort of what, how one chooses to play a given SSOV vault, which you guys can talk about. But, there's definitely an ability to get, much higher APR than you would from other single-sided staking options. I know that you guys provide, RDPX tokens to offset losses, making it, a very low risk strategy overall, even though the returns are a lot higher than, traditional single-sided staking. So, that's certainly something that, Umami, which, cares a lot about, stable, returns that reduce market risk. That's something we've made use of quite a bit with our own treasury deployments, but would love, for either of you guys or both just to weigh in a little bit on, how investors should think about that, as well as maybe, farming strategies. There are other ways to engage in Dopex beyond options that are also, very compelling. So yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Mario, so what do you think? What should we start with first?
Sorry, it was kind of hacked off for me there at the end. Sorry, I didn't get the last part of your question.
Really just walking, people through the SSOV vaults, and any farming strategies as well, and, making listeners and other folks aware that, those are also some pretty cool ways to use the Dopex platform for, low risk returns that are pretty high APY for single-sided staking for the SSOV vaults.
Yeah, Halko, I think that would be your question, right? Walking through this.
Yeah, okay. so I think it's I think it's pretty interesting because it's kind of, how to say this. You could say sky's the limit, but it kind of depends on how much users are willing to take the risk, right? Because what I think is most important to talk about is that how to say this, like there are some yields that are fairly risk-free, and there are yields which you can get, but they are not free, right? Which means you can get them, but one way, something may backfire. So for example, if you deposit your assets in just a normal farm to farm, or if you deposit your stable coins somewhere to earn a small APR, or if you deposit your ETH, for example, to Lido to gain some yield, these returns are pretty much close to risk-free, because of course you have some risk of basically blockchain working, no hacks happening, no racks happening. So you kind of take this whole ecosystem risk, but broadly you can assume that this is more or less risk-free. But then if you want to indeed consider like going slightly more detailed, and you would be looking to on top of this use vaults to provide liquidity, like to sell options. Then on one hand, the returns, if everything goes your way, the yields might be very, very, very high. But on the other hand, you need to remember that by doing this, you take the risk, right? So for example, if you think like I am, for example, if you are farming token X with a price of 100 today, and you think, well, there is no way we will see 150 in a month from now, and you're happy to sell options at 150, then if you are right and the price is below 150, then you will, on top of your regular farming yields, you will collect all the premiums that people pay to you. And this would enhance your returns very, very significantly. However, if the price is above 150 and we have been selling call options, then suddenly you are the party that has to pay, and suddenly your return goes down, or it could be even negative for the epoch, which means very some risk. But I think it kind of depends how you think about this, because some people think that, well, we are very happy to take this risk, because if I would hit $150 for this token, I would sell it anyway. I would be de-risking. So they are kind of very happy to use this form of products to do two things at once, like three things at once: farm the tokens, create kind of a sell order, and gain extra yield on top. So they think, well, I'm very happy to farm. I'm very happy to get extra yield. And if spot price is above the strike I have chosen, and I was selling call options, then I'm fine with kind of having this position end up being kind of a take profit position, right? Because they would start exceeding at around this level. But also, when we think about some other way, what users can be doing is, for example, we have users that they are, for example, LPing, or they are farming, like very, very traditional way. So let's say you are LPing DPX ETH, or you are LPing RDPX ETH, or you can be, for example, LPing other tokens for which we offer options, and you can be, for example, very, very bullish on the tokens that you are farming, and you can basically take your farm proceeds, and with a portion of your farm proceeds, you can buy options. So this way, if the token goes up, you kind of multiply your payoff. But this is, of course, once again, exchange of risk. So if the market doesn't move your way, you are foregoing a portion of your farms. And if market goes your way, you are kind of multiplying your farms. And I think, there is like sky is the limit, and I think everyone may have some pretty cool ideas. And as Mario has also mentioned, we have a dedicated community of analysts. So people that love like submitting different ideas, trade ideas. So you can also check on our blog what they came up with, because it's, it's basically a fountain of alpha.
Yeah, we got some smart brains in our community, that's for sure.
All right. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is I noticed that one of the things that makes Dopex really stand out is its use of a two-token system. And there's the rebate DPX token, which is rewarded to users who are, in the SSOV vaults. So how does this all fit together? Like, what are some of the really cool things that after you get these rebate tokens, what can you do with them?
Mario, are we going to leak the alpha? Yes, we are going to leak some alpha.
Let's do it. Yeah. Go ahead, Halko.
So long story short, RDPX is getting the overhaul. So to give you a super quick overview, the initial architecture was thought one way, but the team is kind of always trying to find the correct market fit. Then the whole platform kind of evolved into a slightly different way than it was initially kind of thought 1 year ago. And how RDPX was thought last year is slightly different from how the ecosystem looks like. So that's why RDPX is getting an overhaul. So very safe. Basically, our founders' thesis paper about RDPX v2. The RDPX v2 is expected to most likely be live around May. And this would basically mean the updated tokenomics for RDPX v2. So, but long story short, in general, the idea is that RDPX will be the token to mint synthetic assets. We have some ideas for different synthetic assets to be rolled out later this year. Plus, we have also very funky ideas, because we have already seen that on top of like very serious products, we also have more fun products. As you know, we have people like Mario. We have people with diamond peppers as by profile pictures, or different funky ways. So one of the things on top of synths would be, for example, like yes no votes, where you can basically bet against other users. You know, you can feel like Doc One and GCR, and you can do the same using our platform later this year. And in general, the idea would be and was for RDPX to be used to mint those different synthetic assets. Most likely, initially, there will be some kind of like leeway, then we won't most likely move into some kind of like factory way. But of course, there is one trick with RDPX, which means the price is volatile. It moves a lot, so it's not the like greatest user experience if your price moves a lot and you had to use this asset as a collateral, mint synth, and you are still running some liquidation risk. So that's why there is a V2 plan, which would be basically allow to bond RDPX with stables to create a native stablecoin that will be just plugged into the ecosystem. So that's the plan, and we should have more news soon.
Okay, that's pretty exciting, and very honored that you guys chose to share that here. That's a pretty significant new use case for RDPX, and I guess just to confirm my understanding, does this V2 structure, does it change kind of the existing value propositions or tokenomics features for RDPX beyond that? So is this still a token that will not have a cap on total supply, and that will have some claim on fees from future Dopex offerings, or do those change as well? And this will just be primarily an asset for minting the synthetic derivatives against going forward. Just curious about that.
Yes, so the cap would be indeed variable. So basically speaking, to mint the stablecoin, you would have to burn DPX. So that's one thing. But still, there is the plan to allow minting for rebates down the road, which would also allow minting some RDPX to the users, which means the overall kind of mint/burn system is still in place. But also we want to in the end have this ability to mint and burn into the stablecoin, because that will be basically a better user experience for everyone looking to use it to margin, to collateralize, to synthesize assets. So that would be it pretty much. But I think we should have also more kind of news, more updates in the subsequent weeks, because still some points are like kind of work in progress.
Great, but that's very exciting, and again, thanks for sharing that with our listeners here. I think RDPX was always a valuable token, and one that I think that as people came to understand it better, would be appreciated more. And now this additional use case, I think, is very significant and exciting. So I think Carney, did you have any other questions on your end? Otherwise, we can open it up to the audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. So one of the other really exciting things is, Dopex is expanding not just on Arbitrum, but also across other EVM chains like Avalanche and Binance Smart Chain. But, running options protocol across many networks is quite difficult. Can you tell us a little bit about your ambitions here and how you plan to achieve them?
Mario will have once again some alpha, can we?
More alpha, huh? Yeah. Our ambitions have always been to go where the liquidity is and go where the people are. And, we kind of found our home base with Arbitrum, and we're quite comfortable here. But as you mentioned, we're already on Smart Chain, Binance Smart Chain, on Avalanche. And we have stuff like Metis in the pipeline, which is coming. And, there's more EVM chains coming. But there's one interesting thing, which is something that was just released called Layer 0. Which will allow us, I'm not the technical person, so I'm probably butchering it here, but it would allow us to kind of send messages over to other chains without actually sending, without actually triggering something natively on there. So it would make it easier to bridge over certain tokens. But yeah, like I said, I probably butchered exactly how it works. But we are very excited about this, and it will enable us. So what this enables us is just to kind of go cross chain to wherever we want, pretty much, right? So they have support for all the EVMs right now, and it's kind of they plan to support everything, Cosmos, Solana within this year. So we might have a complete connected blockchain space by the end of the year.
That's fantastic. And by the way, can you just, I'm curious, which project did you say this is? Because we're working with...
Layer Zero.
Oh, Layer Zero. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we're working with a very similar project called Socket that's sort of building out, similar infrastructure for use cases like that. And, to your point, I mean, the hope will be that you can basically just have, one kind of integrated UX where, people can get exposure to, yield and different strategies that happen to be on any chain, right? Without needing to go through any manual bridging themselves. It's all just under the hood. And I mean, I feel like this is, one of those kind of new developments in blockchain infrastructure that is going to, pretty radically change the experience for DeFi users. So that's really cool to hear that, you guys are working with a similar project. And yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. So I think with that, I know we only have about 10 minutes left. Why don't we open this up to the audience? Does anyone have questions? I mean, a lot of great ground covered and some pretty exciting alpha dropped, towards the end of our conversation. So by all means, folks, fire away. I should add for anyone who is in the Umami Discord that we have a channel called AMA Questions and Chat, open to everyone, that people can drop questions into as well if they're on the Umami Discord.
I have a question. Can I have a question?
Please.
Yes, so I have a question because that's also, long story short, because I know that we have many people joining us on stage. I also see we have people with mythicals. We have also people with miladies. Shout outs to all the miladies, gentlemen. We will see you in the psychic world one day. So what I wanted to say is, I have basically maybe the question to our hosts, because one thing I just wanted to say personally is the Umami team are like the biggest hustlers in the space, because I think I was talking to someone and they asked me what Umami is doing, and I just said that Umami are like serial entrepreneurs, and the guys are basically speaking always trying, and they are like the coolest, I think, community on the whole chain. And it's pretty cool because, I remember when the guys were running the Arbis, and it was fun. There was Z2O, like the OG Umami. And I also wanted to ask you guys, what are your plans for the near future? Because I see that you are now rolling forward with the auto compounder, but the big brain auto compounder. And I think it's very, very exciting because it looks cool. So I just wanted to ask you guys,
yeah, awesome. No, happy
what are your
to answer
plans?
that. Yeah, we appreciate that. We have been we've been hustling hard. It's been really wild past several weeks, really 2 months now. We launched a strategy about 2.5 months ago called Umami V2. For those of you who are not super familiar with Umami, sort of the TLDR is that we originated as an Ohm fork, but we quickly realized that, we can play a role on the Arbitrum ecosystem that's really unique and has the potential to add a ton of value. But the Olympus DAO style tokenomics, which, for those who might not know, is sort of very emissions heavy rebase models. So, high APY for staking the token in exchange for, really, really, rewarded in just, constant emissions of the project token. We realized that's not something that suits us and works for us. So we completely revamped our tokenomics. And so now we have this new model that is, basically zero emissions for all practical purposes. Our goal is to, we already have about 5.5, 6 million of protocol owned treasury capital. and we deploy it across the Arbitrum network. A lot of the hustling that Halko was referencing is we've been basically trying to sit down and get to know every team on Arbitrum, every Arbitrum native project, projects maybe from mainnet or Polygon moving on to Arbitrum, seeing what are their liquidity needs, what kinds of pain points do they have right now, what could we do with our protocol and liquidity to help them stand up new markets for their products, help them establish needed liquidity for their token. So we've been doing a lot of that with this vision of kind of playing this role of onboarding new liquidity from other networks, even from outside of blockchain, onboarding new liquidity, new users onto Arbitrum, into protocol owned treasury liquidity, which then we can use for sort of stable, long-term liquidity for partner projects on Arbitrum, rather than sort of mercenary capital that I think has a tendency to move in and out of chains chasing yield, but not provide long-term sustained liquidity for projects and for the ecosystem. So that's been our vision. We created something we're really excited about, which is sort of a total inversion of that old Olympus DAO. Not to criticize Olympus DAO, but for us, for our purposes, that older rebase emissions model, we've inverted it so that now we take all that yield that we're generating from deploying capital across Arbitrum, we return it to our holders in the form of almost dividend-like payouts, regular payouts through a product we call Marinate in wrapped ETH. So now, you have this very solid basis for the Umami token. It's not being sort of degraded in value, diluted through emissions. Instead, you have a claim on the treasury, getting regular ETH payouts that grows as we onboard more capital. And we keep layering on new products as well, right? So we've got, as you mentioned, auto compounders. Those help generate a lot of liquidity and then surge across Arbitrum, and they also produce fees to our treasury. So all of that goes into what gets paid out with the ETH passive income to our Umami holders through that Marinate product. So, we're really excited because we think that this is a very sustainable, very long-term model. We like that sort of by its nature, and we get to do cool stuff like this, right? I mean, we connect with everyone in the ecosystem. It's sort of naturally very positive sum, and build a lot of partners, figure out how we can be of the most use to the network. And we have great folks. Winston Wolfe was on this call. He's really leading our front end, sort of on a conceptual design level, to make it as user friendly as possible to onboard new people to Arbitrum. And as we had mentioned earlier, when I was talking to Mario, we are integrating some APIs from a project called Socket and a project called Banksa, so that anyone from any chain or even from fiat accounts can just click a button on our user interface and immediately they're aped into Umami, moved right on to Arbitrum network with no frictions of bridging or anything like that on their end. And then we can deploy that capital, again to awesome partners like Dopex or Jones DAO or Mythical, and support the ecosystem. So that's kind of the vision. We've brought on a lot of full-time people. We're working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. So yeah, there's been hustling. I think we'd like to hustle a little bit less, and we will once we get some of these key products rolled out. But yeah, really appreciate you asking that. And I might actually, just because we've got a great group here, use it as an opportunity to mention that by Monday we had to delay a little bit just to make sure that the product was absolutely perfect on testing. But we're going to roll out a new product called the Umami Auto Compounder. The folks at Dopex have retweeted a thread on it. There's a video actually. If you go to everyone here is already on our Twitter accounts. There's a video that walks you through it, just pinned to the top. So I don't need to get into the details, but that's going to be coming out very, very soon, next few days. And we're also going to have a new front end completely for Umami that's beautiful. So I appreciate you asking, Halko. Yeah, that's hopefully hopefully a helpful overview. I don't know if you have. I know that you're actually an Umami holder, so if you have any other questions, happy to answer them.
Is waifu staying in the front end?
What's that?
Is waifu staying on the front end? Good.
Yes. Oh, don't worry. Umami-chan is going to be there. You're going to see her. She's not going anywhere. Awesome. So thank you for that. Any other questions from the community? I see that Fox is horned, so that's good. I'm glad Fox. He was very important actually. He's one of used to help lead this project, and really awesome guy. So shout out to Fox. Anyone else have any questions? I can't answer when ETH 10K, but I have a feeling that the Dopex guys are the best people to talk to for that.
What else? Maybe we can leak some alpha, guys. Do we want more alpha leaks? Yeah, maybe we
Do
can.
it.
For free? Really?
But no, that's actually not like alpha leak, but a different kind of alpha leak, which means maybe what one thing that we also think it's worth mentioning that may have flown under radar, and we will be kind of posting more about this, but I think it's pretty funny. Like one of the things that our devs developed, by the way, was a protocol for TWAP. So basically speaking, if you want to make a large purchase, so for example, basically if you run a treasury or only have a large stack that you need to swap, it turned out that on Arbitrum there was, even brought in crypto, there was no TWAP functionality. So basically speaking, right now you can go to our website, you can use the TZWAP, and this thing would basically chop your order into small pieces and execute across a few days. So this way, if you want to accumulate tokens in silence, you can do this with TZWAP without creating crazy green spike god candles, which is, I think, also interesting because, once again, there is a lot of different usages here, and I think it's interesting because people here are very, very creative with many things. So we will see how it is going to be used. And I have maybe, but I think also one pretty cool thing that is also worth mentioning about Arbitrum is I think it's pretty cool when you take a look at the audience, and half of the guys are donning some kind of Arbitrum native NFT or derivative. So I think it looks cool because I think only ETH, Arbitrum, and I think only AVAX, they have this kind of a strength when it comes to the NFTs and loyalty, right? That other chains, the NFTs didn't really pick up, kind of, and then people trust that Arbitrum NFTs are the good ones. I think that's bullish.
Yeah, no, totally. That is very cool. I just want to see, before we're at 3, and I feel like we've had an awesome conversation. I did not expect, 3 or 4 alpha leaks from this. So that's, I don't think it gets much better. This is why people have to listen to Arbitrum Insider, right? This is, thank you guys for, making the use case for this awesome podcast that we're trying to get started here. So,
sure.
Yeah. I
you know what to do. You gotta head over to our TZWAP and get busy.
Exactly. All right. Well, hey, let's all give claps or hearts or whatever to this the wonderful folks from Dopex, Halko, and Mario. This was a great conversation. I'm sure we're going to be talking about plenty more stuff. But you guys are staples here of the Arbitrum ecosystem, and just really proud to have you on. And let's keep chatting, guys. This is great.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, and have a good day, have a good evening, and a good afternoon, and take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.